The posterior part, or fossa for the ductus venosus, lies between the left lobe and the caudate lobe. It lodges in the fetus, the ductus venosus, and in the adult a slender fibrous cord, the ligamentum venosum, the obliterated remains of that vessel. The porta or transverse fissure, porta hepatis, is a short but deep fissure about 5 centimeters long, extending transversely across the under surface of the left portion of the right lobe, nearer its posterior surface than its anterior border. It joins nearly at right angles with the left sagittal fossa and separates the quadrate lobe in front from the caudate lobe and process behind. It transmits the portal vein, the hepatic artery and nerves, and the hepatic duct and lymphatics. The hepatic duct lies in front and to the right, the hepatic artery to the left, and the portal vein behind and between the duct and artery. The fossa for the gallbladder, fossa vesicae fellei, is a shallow oblong fossa placed on the under surface of the right lobe, parallel with the left sagittal fossa. It extends from the anterior free margin of the liver, which is notched by it, to the right extremity of the porta. The fossa for the inferior vena cava, fossa venae cavae, is a short, deep depression, occasionally a complete canal in consequence of the substance of the liver surrounding the vena cava. It extends obliquely upward on the posterior surface between the caudate lobe and the bare area of the liver, and is separated from the porta by the caudate process. On slitting open the inferior vena cava, the orifices of the hepatic veins will be seen opening into this vessel at its upper part, after perforating the floor of this fossa. Lobes. The right lobe, lobus hepatis dexter, is much larger than the left, the proportion between them being as 6:1. It occupies the right hypochondrium and is separated from the left lobe on its upper surface by the falciform ligament, on its under and posterior surfaces by the left sagittal fossa, and in front by the umbilical notch. It is of a somewhat quadrilateral form, its under and posterior surfaces being marked by 3 fossae, the porta and the fossae for the gallbladder and inferior vena cava, which separate its left part into 2 smaller lobes, the quadrate and caudate lobes. The impressions on the right lobe have already been described. The quadrate lobe, lobus quadratus, is situated on the under surface of the right lobe, bounded in front by the anterior margin of the liver, behind by the porta, on the right by the fossa for the gallbladder, and on the left by the fossa for the umbilical vein. It is oblong in shape, its antero-posterior diameter being greater than its transverse. The caudate lobe, lobus caudatus, Spigelian lobe, is situated upon the posterior surface of the right lobe of the liver, opposite the 10th and 11th thoracic vertebrae. It is bounded below by the porta, on the right by the fossa for the inferior vena cava, and on the left by the fossa for the ductus venosus. It looks backward, being nearly vertical in position. It is longer from above downward than from side to side, and is somewhat concave in the transverse direction. The caudate process is a small elevation of the hepatic substance extending obliquely lateralward from the lower extremity of the caudate lobe to the under surface of the right lobe. It is situated behind the porta and separates the fossa for the gallbladder from the commencement of the fossa for the inferior vena cava. The left lobe, lobus hepatis sinister, is smaller and more flattened than the right. It is situated in the epigastric and left hypochondriac regions. Its upper surface is slightly convex and is molded onto the diaphragm. Its under surface presents the gastric impression and omental tuberosity already referred to. Ligaments. The liver is connected to the under surface of the diaphragm and to the anterior wall of the abdomen by 5 ligaments. 4 of these, the falciform, the coronary, and the 2 lateral, are peritoneal folds. The 5th, the round ligament, is a fibrous cord, the obliterated umbilical vein. The liver is also attached to the lesser curvature of the stomach by the hepatogastric, and to the duodenum by the hepatoduodenal ligament. The falciform ligament, ligamentum falciformi hepatis, is a broad and thin antero-posterior peritoneal fold, falciform in shape, its base being directed downward and backward, its apex upward and backward. It is situated in an antero-posterior plane, but lies obliquely so that one surface faces forward and is in contact with the peritoneum behind the right rectus and the diaphragm, while the other is directed backward and is in contact with the left lobe of the liver. It is attached by its left margin to the under surface of the diaphragm and the posterior surface of the sheath of the right rectus, as low down as the umbilicus. By its right margin it extends from the notch on the anterior margin of the liver, as far back as the posterior surface. It is composed of 2 layers of peritoneum, closely united together. Its base or free edge contains between its layers the round ligament and the parumbilical veins. The coronary ligament, ligamentum coronarium hepatis, consists of an upper and a lower layer. The upper layer is formed by the reflection of the peritoneum from the upper margin of the bare area of the liver to the under surface of the diaphragm, and is continuous with the right layer of the falciform ligament. The lower layer is reflected from the lower margin of the bare area onto the right kidney and suprarenal gland, and is termed the hepatorenal ligament. The triangular ligaments, lateral ligaments, are 2 in number, right and left. The right triangular ligament, ligamentum triangulare dextrum, is situated at the right extremity of the bare area, and is a small fold which passes to the diaphragm, being formed by the apposition of the upper and lower layers of the coronary ligament. The left triangular ligament, ligamentum triangulare sinistrum, is a fold of some considerable size, which connects the posterior part of the upper surface of the left lobe to the diaphragm. Its anterior layer is continuous with the left layer of the falciform ligament. The round ligament, ligamentum teres hepatis, is a fibrous cord resulting from the obliteration of the umbilical vein. It ascends from the umbilicus in the free margin of the falciform ligament to the umbilical notch of the liver, from which it may be traced in its proper fossa on the inferior surface of the liver to the porta, where it becomes continuous with the ligamentum venosum. Fixation of the liver. Several factors contribute to maintain the liver in place. The attachments of the liver to the diaphragm by the coronary and triangular ligaments and the intervening connective tissue of the uncovered area, together with the intimate connection of the inferior vena cava by the connective tissue and hepatic veins, would hold up the posterior part of the liver. Some support is derived from the pressure of the abdominal viscera, which completely fill the abdomen, whose muscular walls are always in a state of tonic contraction. The superior surface of the liver is perfectly fitted to the under surface of the diaphragm, so that atmospheric pressure alone would be enough to hold it against the diaphragm. The latter, in turn, is held up by the negative pressure in the thorax. The lax falciform ligament certainly gives no support, though it probably limits lateral displacement. End of section 23.